Men cannot control the current of events. He can only float with them and steer. It's a quote by Otto von Bismarck. Interesting fellow to quote, but it really rings true as to what's going on right now. The millennial crisis. So what is the millennial crisis? Well, in this day and age right now, the year 2026, there are unaffordable housing prices. The cost of living is going up. Politically speaking, people are divided. Things are incredibly out of balance right now. There's a huge lack of mutual respect between people. The population is starting to collapse. AI is on the rise, which scares a lot of people, although I'm a bit more optimistic. I actually don't really need to get into it a whole lot because chances are good you already know. I don't need to explain it to you. You know what the millennial crisis is and how it's affecting everybody right now. Now, the reason why I wanted to make this video is because plenty of times I've looked around on the internet or looked around on YouTube, wherever, because we all know what the millennial crisis is, but I wanted to look up other people's opinions on what should we do about it? What are some of the solutions? How can we overcome this? What direction do we need to be taking our lives in to be handling this? And you know what? I couldn't find one single, literally not one freaking source, not one source whatsoever that wanted to talk about solutions. Now, I'm sure that there's plenty out there, but maybe they're just buried under algorithms. Maybe they're just buried somewhere where I can't see them. I found hundreds of doom and gloom videos talking about the millennial crisis, talking about the problems of modern day life. Plenty of videos talking about the problem, but none talking about the solution. And I thought, okay, well, I guess it's just gonna have to be me then. I guess I'll have to make a video and put it out there and see if it can help someone. These are, in my opinion, the best solutions that I can offer you on how to deal with the current situation of things, how to deal with the millennial crisis. Ultimately, take each solution with a grain of salt. Sort through anything that isn't useful to you, because ultimately, the millennial crisis is affecting everybody differently. It's affecting us each individually very differently. Some people, I think, are unbothered by it. Some people are in great distress over it. So whatever the solution might be, it's going to have to be very much up to you on what's useful to you and what isn't. But I would start off with a bit of a Buddhist approach, and that is meditate and stay in the moment. For one thing, it's so easy to fixate on the problem, but if you're constantly fixating on the problem, then your mind cannot relax. Your mind's not going to be able to think up a solution if you're constantly focusing on the problem. Sometimes the solution, sometimes your personal solution comes to you in a moment of peace and quiet, when you're going for a walk, when you're in the shower, when you're doing something mundane, suddenly, a realization comes your way. But if you're always fixating on the problem, you can never get there. But also, some things will never change. And what I mean by that is, even if the economy was doing great, even if the economy was healthy and robust, sitting outside and looking at nature would still be the same. Count your blessings and remind yourself of the things that you are grateful for. It almost sounds kind of cliche, but Mother's Day just passed, and I was visiting at home with my parents, and my sister bought this beautiful chocolate cake, and so I indulged. So I sat down and I looked at this. She actually bought it specially. It was there's a cake dealership in town, so it was decorated perfectly. It was made immaculately. And as I was taking a bite, my dad said, "Man, emperors of the old never ate like this." And I thought to myself, yeah, actually, you're right. The emperors of old and the kings of back in the day never got to have something like this, never got to have this kind of delicacy. And we often forget that. Kings of old never had beds as comfortable as the ones we have, never had heating systems as good as we have. Modern day medicine continues to strive forwards and liberate us from things like polio. I mean, think of how rotten something like polio has been in the past, and it just doesn't really exist much anymore. That's definitely something to just stop and be grateful for. This one helps me a lot. Remind yourself of the powers that you still have. You don't have power over the system, but let's take one thing for example. Let's say unaffordable housing. So houses are really unaffordable right now, and a lot of people lament over that. But how badly do you want that house? Because I'm in Canada right now, and there are bastions of hope. And there are plentiful places where there are affordable houses. Edmonton, for example. I knew a guy from my old hometown who constantly lamented over not being able to afford a house, working his butt off and still not being able to afford a house in British Columbia. And then I found out about house prices in places like Edmonton and other places in Alberta. So I sent him a message and I said, hey, you know, man, with the amount of money you've got, you could get a down payment in the other province. You could move to Alberta and have your house. And then he replies back, oh yeah, but then I'd have to live in Alberta. I mean, the guy was lamenting on Facebook like every week, every other day for weeks about how much he was upset about not having a house. But it's like, but then again, how badly do you want it? Do you want it badly enough that you're willing to move to a place where you can get one? Because if so, it is still within your power to get one. Even in the United States, you could move to a place like Montana, where there's still affordable houses. There are plenty of places where you can still afford a house. Also, another thing that's within your power, if things are more expensive, it is still within your power to take advantage of opportunities to make more money. And that's another thing to be grateful for. In other third world countries, they make no money, but also the opportunity isn't there. If I wanted to right now, I could say, you know what, screw this. I'm gonna go make 100 to 150K a year. I'm just gonna go make money. I'm gonna go be a lawyer. I'm gonna go make a ton of money. That opportunity would be there. And for most people, these opportunities are there, and they're only reflected by how hard you're willing to work. So just keep in mind, you're not powerless. You can also do things like move countries if you really don't want to, if you really don't like where you live. Like, for example, there's tons of people moving to Canada right now from the United States. They're just sick of the situation down there. So they're moving here because that's within their power. You could, if you want a retirement home, it's actually quite easy to emigrate to Mexico and have dual citizenship. Why don't you buy your retirement home in Mexico? When you're constantly being fed doom and gloom, it's often very easy to forget how much individual power you really do have. Or if making lots of money doesn't have the value that it used to back in the day, well then why don't you just devote yourself to what you truly are passionate about? And that's the silver lining. You are free as a bird now to go for whatever passion, to go for whatever makes you feel alive. And this is also a unique time in life. You know, this is, something that I've observed a long time ago, that I've been reminded of just recently. You can literally make a living at anything you want nowadays. You pick it, You work hard enough at it, you can make a living at it. Do you like knitting and making quilts? You can make a living doing that now. You can find ways of making a living doing that, whether it's teaching other people how to do it or making videos like this online. You can make a living playing video games now. So sky's the limit. You can afford to give yourself over to what you truly want to do, and that is definitely a silver lining. You can still figure out a life that gives you purpose, and it can be based around helping others in the ways that you have struggled as a human being. I guess the logic that I'm trying to point out in this one is that I think if your money isn't going to go far, then don't pick a career that is just for money. Pick a career that is right for you. Pick a job and a meaning and a life purpose that is right for you, because right now it kind of doesn't matter. So you might as well live a fulfilling life. Maximize the things that you still have. So I like to get together with friends fairly frequently to have potlucks. I love a good potluck. You know, you could go out to a restaurant with friends, but I mean, going out to a restaurant is expensive these days, so don't. Get together at a friend's house and have a potluck dinner or something like that. And you know what? I really love potlucks because you can, if I made the whole dinner, it would be pretty good. But if I concentrate all my attention on just one dish, it's going to turn out amazingly. And if everybody does that, then you've got a whole round of dishes that are all turning out amazingly. And then you sit down and you socialize. The economy hasn't taken that away from you. Maximize spend more time with friends, especially nowadays. One of the things that the millennial crisis involves is people being more isolated. But you don't have to live isolated. You don't have to be like that. You can create friend groups. You can join clubs. You can join running clubs. You can join social groups that are free to join and just show up. You know, you can still maximize the things that you still have power over. You can still be creative. Creativity is also very cheap. If you love writing, it's very cheap to just open up your computer and write a few things. If you don't have a computer, well, it's very cheap to just grab a piece of paper and a pen and write. If you like to paint, you can get all your paint supplies from the dollar store. You know, there's so many things that you can maximize that you still have. You can still get a library card and do all your reading for free. You can still and nowadays you can get audiobooks and even free streaming from the library. Take the things that you still have and maximize the crap out of those. Going for walks is still free as well. You'll notice that some of my points here tie into each other and even sound a little bit repetitive. But I'd say another little bit of information or a little bit of advice I would pass along to you is understand that you still have the power of choice. I've sort of mentioned that before. But understand the consequences of the power of choice. And this is something I think that's important to understand if you're living through the millennial crisis. If I wanted to be a lawyer, I could. And I could make tons of money and financially I would be free. But then that comes with a consequence. It means I would have to go down the route of being a lawyer, which is not easy. It's very difficult. If I want the route of freedom, that is working a job that doesn't pay a lot of money, but offers me a lot of personal freedom, that also comes with a choice. So my next little bit of advice would be take stock of your power of freedom, but also understand that there are consequences to certain choices. We're gonna have to strategize and really think about the things that we want. If we want family, we're going to have to understand that there's going to be a consequence to that, a financial consequence to that, and that it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to be much harder to have a family these days. You can still do it, but you also can't approach it with a laissez-faire attitude. you have to really consider what the consequences of that choice is going to be. My next little tip is to understand you can still have what you want in life. You can still create a vision of what you want out of life. And then from there, you can make a plan to get it. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about this best when he said he was very lucky that he had a vision, he had a goal, and he knew he just had to move towards that goal. I think now more than ever is a good time to make a goal of how you want your life to look, of what you want your life to look like, and to start moving in that direction. Make a plan and move in that direction. But I also wanted to mention that because sometimes when we're looking at the problem, we can feel like we're boxed in or powerless to actually create the life that we want, when in actual fact we can still create the life that we want. Understand that your life is flexible. The original path that was created for us, go to school, go to college, get married, buy that house, get a mortgage, pay it off, and retire. That's now outdated and no longer entirely, I want to say it's no longer entirely practical. It can still be practical, but it's much more difficult. It's certainly not practical for the average income earner anymore. But it's also good to keep in mind that your life path is not on a rigid path that's been created by someone else anymore. You're now free and flexible to move in whatever direction that you want. Nowadays, you can work a career for 4 or 5 years and afford to say, this isn't working out for me, I'm going to try something else. And this can be very good too, because a jack of all trades is a master of none, but sometimes a jack of all trades is better than a master of one. For example, if I am a master bookkeeper, what if AI comes by and takes my job? If that's my only skill, then I'm kind of hooped. But if I am a bookkeeper and I'm also a woodworker and I've got experience doing construction work and I've done some landscaping and I'm also very creative and I'm good at writing, well, suddenly I can combine all these things together to move into another direction. I think staying flexible right now is very important rather than staying rigid, because we kind of don't know where the future is going. So I think it's good to go in a direction that keeps your life flexible. And also, don't guilt yourself if you feel like you're doing it wrong, because the only pathway to success is through failure. So you might need to try a few careers and fail at a couple before you figure out a better direction for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. For the love of God, stop doom scrolling. If you are, right now we're like I was commenting on and touching on in the beginning of this video, there's lots of news sources and lots of articles and videos talking about the problem and none talking about the solution. We are over-informed and under-actioned. We're constantly being shown the problem and being given no solutions. And that can really get you down. So, yeah, in my opinion, you need to stop doom scrolling if you are in fact doing that. Limit your intake and increase your action. Create real-world community. A lot of the thing they call third places, which is where people used to congregate regularly, like say church, for example. People congregate there every Sunday, same time. A lot of those third places are slowly disappearing in the modern age. So I think now it's more important than ever to create your own community. Create your own group of friends. If I were you, I would really consider creating your own regular community and make sure you maintain your friendships. I think that's very important these days. Get physically strong and healthy. I think that working your body and remaining and staying healthy, or getting healthy if you are unhealthy, is more important right now than ever before, because things like retirement are just a great big question mark at the moment. I think a lot of millennials are going, I don't know if I'm going to even be able to retire when the time comes. Not with the direction things are going. We're not really sure. So I think more than ever right now, you should consider working on your health and being physically fit and being strong. I think it's really important for your longevity. So strength, cardio, and 90% of your success is eating right. So eat well, eat right, get good sleep, and focus on your mental health as well. I think those things are more important right now in this millennial crisis than ever before. Choose responsibility over resentment. This is not your fault. This whole situation is not your fault, but unfortunately it is your responsibility now to deal with it. So choose that responsibility and start making choices. Ultimately, if I was to leave you with just one lesson in this video, it's do not let a broken economy define your value and define your purpose in life. If you're willing to put the effort in, you can still carve out exactly who you want to be, and you can still find a lot of purpose in this life. The outdated system is broken, but the answer is adaptation, not despair. But it has to be your answer, your adaptation, because only you can figure out what kind of life works best for you. I'd love to finish off this video with a quote from Thomas Paine. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. When you overcome this challenge and you strive for victory, the victory being the kind of life that you want, you'll know what these words mean.